Oh, Jesus Christ, these spots today. Gonna call here. I'm gonna block bet the river against ace highs. Not really afraid of flushes, to be honest. I think they would have jammed very often the turn. I mean, I would do exactly the same with my 4x, 7x. Oh, Jesus Christ, these spots today. I mean, he could jam any like king, queen, queen, jack, jack 10, 10, 9 off with one club, guys. What is he jamming? There could be so much, guys. Seriously. I think I'm gonna call. I mean, wouldn't he be jamming flush draws on the turn? Also, overpairs would probably keep, you know, firing a block bet on the turn, like 8s, 9s. It's either a complete monster, like ace 5. Ace 5 could be possible. But it's like he has all king queens with the king and clubs trying to get me off like a block bet from the 7 or deuce. We get such a good price. And he can be aggressive. Kings, alright, GG guys. Yeah, aces, kings, we block aces, but I think it's alright.
My final hand on the final table that didn't go so well. I mean, the final table was alright, but the last hand didn't go so well for me. Ace-2's offsuited here, 10 big blinds. Stake Addict is the chip leader. Opening from the cutoff, he was playing very aggressively on the final table, very, very sticky. So something we have to keep in mind for later. He opens the cutoff, and let's look into the ranges. I would assume, I mean, given the stack sizes, I think he's going to be raising very aggressively here. I would assume somewhere between 40-50% of hands here from the cutoff. Can be 40%, can be 50%. Some people are getting completely out of line, 60%. It's really hard to say. My defending range, I would be trapping with aces, maybe sometimes even with kings. I would be, still defend relatively wide. In chip EV, I would defend any, like almost any offsuited queen, anything that is somewhat connected, any suited hand. But now here in an ICM situation, I'm defending a little tighter. It's still relatively loose. Maybe I'm a little bit too loose in that spot, but I think the way population plays against short stack is not that ideal, so that allows me to realize a little bit more equity according to GTO. However, with ace-2's off, I actually don't mind reshoving it pre. I mean, if we look at all these jack 9s, queen 10s, we're going to have a shit ton of equity, and ace-2's off is going to be an extremely profitable reshove. However, I do like also with 10-15 big blinds to have some ace-x in my defending range, so I'm not completely capped on ace-high boards. I have a few top pairs, but yeah, I think that the way population plays, the EVs are going to be relatively close. I think reshoving is fine. I went for the call. The flop is 4-4-7, and he bets very tiny, basically around 20% pot. And we're going to look into his flop strategy. And maybe as a little exercise for you guys, when his range is so wide as I've just shown, should he c-bet his entire range against us? Should he check back some hands? So if you pause for a second, think about it, then come back. Let's look into it, and as you can see, he's supposed to be betting his entire range. You can very well see how this illustrates the impact of ICM onto us, that we're supposed to be folding a decent amount of hands here, that because already this one big blind is a significant portion of our stack, and for him this one big blind is basically nothing. There is no ICM impact on him for this bet size. So if he bets, yeah, I mean, this is around 20% pot. It's a little bit less, 15% pot, between 15-20% pot. You can see that with ace-2's off, we should be calling or raising. Folding would be a big mistake here. I considered ICM, of course. So this was the ICM structure and the stack sizes. And of course, it makes no sense to approach it from a GPV standpoint. And as you can see, it wants to raise ace deuce, which would be essentially a check jam all in, which I actually like. I mean, if we look at this entire queen 9 offs, queen 10 offs, king 10 offs, it's going to be so incredible wide. If he has an overpair, we have an overcard, we have a backdoor gut shot, we have at least a bit of equity. So, and I think we're just going to generate a massive amount of fold equity. So in hindsight, I would slightly prefer reshoving pre-flop. I would slightly prefer check shoving the flop. However, we still remain in the region of being profitable. Of all our options have been plus EV so far. And if you analyze the hand, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm not going to be carrying this spot with me now for the next weeks and debate, I should have rejammed, I should have done this. All my options have been clearly profitable, and this is what matters. So don't be too hard on yourself in these kind of spots. So I opted to go for a call. The turn is the deuce and clubs. And we check again, and you can see how aggressive he stays. And especially with his flush draws, I mean, he's basically shoving all the queen jacks, folding out king high floats, ace high floats. What are we folding against? Yeah, you can see that a lot of floats that we had here. We're calling 10-6, really? Oh, we're supposed to float 10-6 here on the flop. That's interesting, even with ICM. I think, so that's where we have to make some assumptions according to what population does, especially on a final table where you have thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake. I wouldn't assume that people have these hands in their range. That's why what Pio suggests here to shove queen jack doesn't really make any sense, because our opponents are not going to have all these hands in their range, because queen jack just basically benefits from folding out so much equity, right? If we see, why is it not showing the straight? Check, sorry. Yeah, queen jack, queen 10, all these hands want to be shoving. I think the way population is going to play this spot is shoving or betting their flush draws with a very high frequency, maybe checking back some aces and kings to trap, maybe a 4, yeah, some ace highs, some give ups. But I do believe that it makes a lot of sense to keep betting small here on the turn with a very high frequency, because we're going to have a lot of queen high floats, some jack high floats, king high floats, and they really struggle because we are now basically investing our 1/3 of our stack with king high. So however, it goes check, check, and the river is the 3 in clubs. And now we want to look into the solution, what we're supposed to do with our ace deuce. We have bottom pair, and you can see it clearly wants to block bet. Checking is fine. I guess when we check anti-jams, we always have a snap call. We can never fold here on the river. But it's going to be basically the analysis that I'm going to do against his raise after me betting will be similar to what he's going to do if we check to him, which will be bluffing a lot with hands that contain 1 club. So I went ahead and I bet 1/4 pot block bet, and you can see that against the raise we're supposed to bluff catch ace deuce sometimes, and this is one of the spots where the GTO solution shows you, all right, you can fold, it's all right, you can call, it's all right. Now the question is, let's look into what our opponent's strategy is supposed to be. And you can see that he's raising a lot of ace-x with 1 club, 10 in clubs, ace in clubs. These are basically the main bluffs, and not even raising every single time. And of course, he's raising aces and kings for value. I'm very surprised that kings doesn't want to raise every single time. I think it's a clear value shove against a small bet. And then of course his flushes. But I assume that more flush, he's not going to have so many flushes. I think most of the flushes are going to be betting the turn, shoving with his flush draws, and a lot of his, even if he has a hand like queen jack off, you can see the queen jacks off basically want to be raising also with a high frequency when he has the queen and clubs. And I think he's capable of doing it. I mean, he's basically investing only 8 big blinds for this bluff. And if it goes wrong, he has 60 big blinds left. So for him, it's really whatever. And he can apply maximum pressure against our block bets with ace high, with 3x. I mean, do we block bet some ace? We don't really have ace highs here because we have ace 4, ace 3, ace 2s. But you can see that even some king 10s don't mind block betting, because our opponent, he has all these jack highs, queen highs, 10 highs, suited connectors, and you basically just want to claim your share of the pot. With king high, you're going to have, let's see, almost 50% equity against this entire range, simply because he has so much air in his range on this board, right? Every single time you face a very wide open range and the board run out remains very low, you can do a lot of small block betting. So I went ahead with a 1/4 bet, and he raises. And as we've seen, and now based on my experience, based on the assumptions that I'm making, the same as I did in the 9-8 suited, I come to the conclusion that he's going to end up with too many 1-club hands that try to bluff me out of the pot, that he's going to have not so many flushes. And so according to GTO, I think he will be bluffing more often. He will have less value shoves with flushes. And the only hands I'm afraid of are some slow played boats, 4x, he can still have some flushes, and aces and kings, maybe queens. That's it. And that's where then I made the decision that my EV of calling is going to be higher according to GTO. And I ended up calling. Unfortunately, he had kings. This time I was wrong. And of course, it doesn't feel nice to bust like this, but it's very important when you're in these situations when there's a lot of money at stake. Try to blind out all the money that is at stake. I know it's not so easy, but I try to make the decision based on facts. I don't think, I'm going to make now a hero call that is worth $150,000. Or I don't know what the next pay jump was, or maybe $80,000. I want to approach this hand the same way as I would do in the early game. Of course, always considering how are my opponents playing on final tables. Of course, if there's a nitty guy risking his entire stack, I'm going to assume that he's bluffing probably not at all. And according to that, I'm going to make the needed adjustment. But I'm not influenced by the money that is at stake just because, I want to only get it in with the nuts, or I only want a hero call with the nuts so I can feel good that I didn't make a wrong decision. That's poker, and if you're afraid to make hero calls on final tables for a lot of money, you're probably playing too high, your bankroll management is not good enough, or you feel very insecure in a lot of spots. And you should study more and bring more clarity to your game. And never be results orientated. As you've seen, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. And that's the nature of the game. And it's about the long term. We're in for the long run. And short-term decisions shouldn't have an impact on your decision making, because you can be wrong in these spots 5 times in a row, 10 times in a row, but over 100, 500 situations, you're gonna generate a profit, because at some point next time, if I'm in a similar spot, I might run into someone that is bluffing here with queen, jack, and clubs, or a big fox that bluffed with his 7-8 suited. That's it. That's how poker is, and I hope you guys understand, or shift your thinking a little bit more from being results orientated more towards thinking about the long run. I busted here. Feels brutal, of course, but I'm happy with my decision. There's still some things I can do better on earlier streets, pre-flop and flop. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then see you guys next time. Stay strong and let's crush.